So this is the next little model steam engine that's up for some work. I purchased this about 2 years ago from eBay, and I remember at the time doing some research on it. I wasn't sure what it was. There's no manufacturer's mark on it at all. I was fairly certain it was German. The styling and everything about it just screams German manufacturer. So this time when I got it off the shelf, I thought, right, I'll do a bit more digging. And I'm now fairly certain, 90% certain, that it's probably a little Bing model steam engine. The reason why I say that is that I found photos of small upright Bing model steam engines which have an identical boiler. It's got this stepped bit here on the bottom of the boiler. I've also found Bing engines that have this exactly the same firebox with the same shape cut out and the vertical vents and the horizontal vents. So yeah, that's all definitely Bing, and the little cylinder and everything, that all screams Bing. I'm not sure about the base. I couldn't find a Bing with exactly the same base on it, but I did find an Ernst Planck engine which had an almost identical base to this. So that's where I'm a little bit, not 100% certain on what it is. But yeah, so most likely a Bing, could be an Ernst Planck, but yeah, definitely German. One thing I do know for sure is that this is definitely not the right flywheel. It would not have had a flywheel like that on it. It would have had a spoked flywheel. Let me stop it. And to bring in, there we go. That little one is a Joseph Falk, and that's the kind of flywheel that this would have had. And again, you can see, I mean, they're very similar in size, and you can see, but you can see immediately differences between them. It's got a very different base to the boiler here. The firebox doesn't have the horizontal vents, and the base is completely different. But obviously, we're fortunate with this one because it actually has JF on the firebox, so we know exactly what that one is. But they're very, very, very similar. So, yeah. Nice little engine, pretty good condition really. I'm probably going to change the flywheel. I'll probably take a flywheel off another engine, maybe even the Joseph Falk, and use that as a pattern and cast up a new flywheel, because that's not the right flywheel. It's also missing the burner, as you can see. It's missing the safety valve, or possibly filler. It may not have had a safety valve. It could be just a filler plug. And it's missing the conrod and the piston. But again, all of this is fairly easy to replicate. You know the bore of the cylinder, you know the stroke, because you can measure between the pivot of the crank and the crank itself, and that will give you half the stroke. So you know how to work out the stroke, very easy. It's just a matter of making up those bits. But yeah, and I think this could do with a proper tear down and restoration. So let's get on and do it. A little bit of progress on the small German vertical boiler model steam engine. I used my standard oven cleaner to get the paint off, and amazingly, the paint just fell off of it. So I'm assuming that possibly that had been repainted sometime in its past. I used the same oven mate on the inside, and it got 90% of the carbon and soot and crap that was on the inside of the firebox. It got all that off. I used a wire brush on the outside to clean that up, and I've given the boiler a little bit of a polish up. So, and the cylinder and whistle and crankshaft have all been given a good clean. So we're getting along with it. The next stage is to etch prime the base and then give it a top coat. And I've got to mask off the boiler and put a little bit of disc of cardboard in there to protect the bottom of the boiler, and then paint the firebox with the high temperature engine paint. And that will be pretty much all the original parts sorted. Then it's just down to making the new piston and conrod. Smokestack, got to make a smokestack for it as well. So yeah, it's looking good. Well, progress has been a little bit slow on the small German upright model steam engine. Had a couple of new additions to my air rifle collection just lately, and they both required a little bit of work, and I kind of got distracted with that. So yeah, anyway, progress has been made. As you can see, the little German upright now has a piston and a conrod. Piston was turned from a bit of 10mm brass bar stock, drilled and tapped 6BA, and then I made the con rod out of a little bit of mild steel rod. I heated the end up and flattened it off in the vise to make the this part here, and drilled the appropriate hole in, and yeah, that all came out quite well. And as you can see, I've painted the base and the firebox, so we've actually got a almost working engine now. The flywheel, this is an interesting story. So as you can see, it now has, you know, a much more representative, I think, flywheel than what was on there originally. So the flywheel, initially I had to go at casting one using the flywheel off of the Joseph Falk engine, but that didn't work. It's very spindly, and you know, this is I think this is the third attempt, and yeah, it didn't work. So you know, sometimes they work, sometimes it doesn't. You know, you have to you have to sometimes come up with alternative plans. So I looked through my flywheel box, and I happen to have a few of these. Now that is a standard small Mammoth flywheel. Obviously it's too big for that, really, but I thought, well, no, hang on, I can turn that down. I can turn the Boss's hubs down here. I can reduce the thickness by about 2/3, then turn the diameter down a little bit, and sure enough, that's what I started with. And as you can see, we'll close in on it a little bit. That's what I finished up with. However, I did come across one problem with this. As you can see, this flywheel is quite smooth on the outside edge. Then, which was exactly how that one started. When I started to turn it down, I'll turn it on its side here, all sorts of inclusions started to appear in the casting. So I just think that these Mammoth flywheels are not that good. The castings are not that good. So if we rotate it, you can see all these little tiny spots and dings, particularly bad. They're not scratches. They are actually air bubbles or some sort of impurity inclusion in the casting. Same here. And yeah, I mean, you basically can't turn them out, because the more you take off, some will disappear as you turn the diameter of the flywheel down, but then others reappear. So you know, I just basically got to the point where I wanted it, and I've just left it. It's unfortunate, but there you go. It is what it is. I think the flywheel looks quite nice. I think it's very appropriate, right number of spokes and everything. So yeah, I think it'll do fine. So what does that leave us with? Well, this hole here, having had a look at a lot of small Bing uprights, some of them have a safety valve, but the vast majority of them, they simply have a little filler plug which goes in there. That's, you take that out and that's where you put your watering. And the safety valve aspect of this, they rely on the spring which holds the cylinder onto the engine plate, so that if the steam pressure gets too much, the steam pressure will simply push the cylinder away. It will overcome the spring, the strength of the spring, and that will vent your excess pressure. So that's what I'm probably going to do. I'm probably going to make up a little tiny filler plug to go in there. And then we've still got smokestack and chimney and smokestack cowl to make. But we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. The little Bing upright engine is finished. I'm going to call it a Bing, not 100% certain, but German upright anyway. And I've spent the morning, as you just saw, making the filler plug, and I've also made a smokestack for it and a chimney cowl. The smokestack was made the same way as I've shown you before how I do that. It starts off as a piece of stainless steel pipe tube, such as this. You can never find tube which is the right internal diameter to fit over the chimney mounts on these engines, so you always have to bore out one end so that it fits over the mount and then make the little chimney cowl. And then to get it this colour, you've seen me do this, you simply heat it up until it's roughly the right colour that you want, and then quench it in engine oil and it comes out like that, which is actually very nice. I quite like the finish that you can get on stainless using that method. So yeah, I'm full disclosure, I have run this on air and it runs fine down to about 10 psi. The reason I did that was because I was a bit concerned about the cylinder to engine plate fit. Didn't seem quite right to me, but it runs down, as I said, to about 10 psi in there, so I'm hoping that's going to be okay. The other thing I've got to sort out is the thread. This is very loose. The whistle in the thread in the boiler is quite loose, so I've got to have a little play around with that. But for all intents and purposes, it's finished and it's all ready to steam. As always with model steam engines, the moment of truth. We've got water in the boiler, we've got our little tiny round gas burner in there. I've got it turned right down. I always start with it turned right down, and we'll see what we've got going. If anything. Well, that looks hopeful. Well, apart from a little bit of overfilling on my part, I think we're ready to go. There we go. I'll turn the gas down a bit. But it's running. She's running perfectly. I'm well pleased with that. My piston and common obviously it worked. Well, I spoke too soon. It's absolutely typical. So it's all too easy to move the burner on this. There we go. Nice and quiet as well. Got little filler plugs working okay. I do wonder sometimes on these engines how the con rod and piston gets lost, because obviously you're going to have to take it off to lose it. So I don't know. But again, not difficult to make. And the modified Mammoth flywheel seems to be doing the business all right. There's a very tiny slight metal wobble, but that's got more to do with the crankshaft going through the crankshaft tube. It's quite a loose fit, so you are going to get some wobble, but that's not too bad. No, runs a treat. Well pleased with that. I'm going to try the whistle, but this is a bit iffy, so. Yes, so the whistle doesn't actually make a whistle, what it does is vent a load of the steam. It's not really surprising, is it? Right. No, well pleased with that. Little German vertical, we'll call it a Bing, is running a treat. With its new piston and conrod. And new chimney, and chimney cowl, and pillar plug, and flywheel. I do like the blued finish you can get with stainless steel. Just hot bluing it, heating it up, and then quenching it in oil. It does produce a really nice, very similar to the blued tin plate of the original chimney. So. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for the little vertical boiler German engine, which we're going to call Bing for now. I don't want to let it run too long because it's got a very small boiler capacity, so we'll turn the gas off. Yes, I did think it would stop fairly quickly. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Hope you've enjoyed the video as always, and thank you very much for watching. Cheers.